let's talk about the identity theft quickly. Yeah, last 2 weeks we were supposed to do that, but we couldn't. I mean, this is a beautiful book she wrote, and it talks about young people. I think it falls in line with our discussion today. Tell us a bit more about what initiated you writing this book.
Okay, so Identity Theft is a book about this year, and it is about addictions. But basically, the whole theme of identity theft is who you are, the ability to understand who you are. Many young people have no idea of who they are, and they allow life, society, peers to steal that identity. So addictions has stolen many young people's identities, and they never bloom to become who God intended them to be. Why? Because of curiosity, experimentation, because of a dire need to belong, because of youthful exuberance. Many of them end up in situations that they should never have gone into. So this book, Identity Theft, is educating. It's like a preventive counseling tool, educating young people on the dangers of alcoholism and gambling. It's also educating people on aiding and abetting and how it can alter you. It's also educating on identity-related issues. So it's a 6-story book, but it has counseling principles woven in each of the stories. So let me just quickly talk about like a first story, which is the main story for this particular book, on a young child who is his mother's only son, excellent student, who has earned a scholarship to continue schooling if he can maintain his grades in the next 2 years. But he meets a group of boys who are also seemingly cool kids, the one everybody wants to join their clique. And so he joins this clique, or he tries to become like them. And what he didn't know was they hang out and experiment on different things. And one of the things they experiment with was alcohol. And they do it because, you see, youth thrive with defiance. Because they know they shouldn't do it, they attempt to do it to find out if, one, they will be caught, if, two, what they heard was about it was wrong, is really wrong, and then they want to prove for themselves whether it was done or not. What he didn't know was alcoholism ran in his family. And so by him being enticed by friends and him attempting just a sip, he spiraled and ended up as an alcoholic. Even those who put him in didn't. And so now you are weaving the addiction process of initiation to regular use, risky use, full-blown addiction, and then you are trying to teach the remediation process of restoration all the way to healing, trying to elaborate for the young people the dangers and how this potential brilliant student lost his identity completely. People will call him a drunkard, but that was not his drunkard. He had the potential to be an excellent top society person. And this is just one story, but there are many others. Now the lesson is replicated for all other identity-related issues. There are students who now are struggling with porn addiction. It's one of the worst I'm meeting on the field now. It's worse. Then there's the gambling addiction. So we have both substance and behavioral addictions, and they are on the rise. Now it's obvious to see the substance addictions because, oh, I can see he's been smoking because of his lips. I can see he's been drinking because he's tipsy and he's falling. But you don't see the behavioral addictions, like she's porn addiction, like sex addiction, and all the other behaviors. Then they come to church all right, they are guilty laden, or they go and now manifest the effects of this addiction by preying on young girls, preying on young boys, and all its other implications. That person's identity is completely altered, completely stolen because he followed friends, because he followed the social media, internet, what's trending. I mean, today somebody sent me a video of this, then you know the vape. Now there's this watch that they wear, and the watch is like a little bottle. So when you as a teacher or a parent see it, you see a watch, but there's a bottle that they can unlock from the watch, and then they smoke their vape. The vape has high nicotine levels.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and it looks like a fun thing. So most of them are being enticed into it as a fun thing, and they don't understand the implications of addiction. And the danger of addiction is your will power is what is eroded completely. So when you want to stop, you can't. It's not as if they don't want to.
Stop.
They want to. And everybody is insulting them. And you can't do this. He says, I just can't. That's what happens. And so it's so sad when you meet young children whose identities have been altered by one poor choice. And they could have been potentially great, potentially societally relevant, but they are destroyed because they were immature, they lacked the knowledge and education, and they couldn't make tough decisions. You and I can make tough decisions, and we will be blamed for every decision we make.
Yes.
But a teenager, 13, 12, even 16, even 25, may still be making poor choices just because of lack of education. So the whole concept of identity theft book is to educate both parents. It's a book I call a conversation starter. So I may have started a story on alcoholism, but you, the parent, find out what other things your children are addicted to. Today, most of our children are addicted to the phone. So if you want to get money, project in the next 10, 15 years, those who do chiropractic and those who are into physio, they will make the most money because we are going to have curvature problems and we are going to have eye problems. So you go into optometry, you go into physiotherapy, and you go into chiropractic. In 10, 15 years, you'll be the millionaire.
Career patterns
have been designed because we have poor posture problems. The children cannot do without a phone. And so they have lost what we call social awareness. When they are driving through town, they don't see buildings, they don't see people, they can't identify what happens in their classroom.
They're locked up on their gadgets.
You see, the things you see imprint in your brain so much that you may be sitting in class and they are teaching mathematics. He's still previewing the film or the cartoon that he's been watching for about 8 hours. Then he calls home and continues. The addictions on the phone and the screen time is another deadly ball game. It has become a numb-minding activity for our children because they are no longer being creative. All they do is feed on things that have already been taught to them. And then it doesn't leave their mind. Pictures imprint into the mind of the young one. So these pictures keep playing in the young child's mind. So you will notice as a parent, your child is not doing well academically because he can't think for himself. The child is not improving. And then they keep giving excuses and hiring more extra classes teachers and giving them more sophisticated gadgets unsupervised. And these children bypass your passwords. They bypass all the things. And what they are doing on social media, on all the social websites, they don't do Facebook. Facebook, like we are talking, forget it, they are not there. They said it's for old people.
TikTok.
So they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Snapchat. There's a new
there are
one.
new ones, so plenty of them.
And that's where they vibe. So if you are not on those channels, you are not cool.
You're not cool.
If you tell them you're on Facebook, you kind of expired.
Messy. And you see, this addiction thing you're talking about is what has gotten a lot of young ladies into where they are right now. They start something small, they didn't know that, this is going to lead to something more than.
It starts with fun.
Yeah.
And it ends
in trouble. Big issues. And so, parents, if you're Hannah, where can we find copies of this book? I'm hoping that very soon Rabbi would help us put a few on her shelf. Also here at Just Use, when you come, you can find. But apart from Rabbi's shop, where else can we find?
We do deliveries, so you can call 054 706 4982. Send a message by WhatsApp or text that you are interested in the book.
The number again, please.
054 706 4982.
Okay.
And tell us you are interested. I would recommend it for school proprietors.
Yes.
I would recommend it for
parents,
pastors.
especially.
And for me, especially parents.
Yes.
Read the stories with the children and trigger conversations.
Yes.
I always put questions at the end of every story that will start up. And find out how your children think in certain situations and what they would have done if they were in those situations. And suddenly it becomes an educating point. You can now start educating your children because you will be surprised at the things they know and what they are thinking and how they would have handled. I have the good news I have is that some of my friends pick it for their youth groups. So they sit down in groups of 20 or 10 per class, and then they will all read and they come and exchange ideas. Okay. Now, the advantage of these things is it helps the children to now be informed and to make choices knowing the consequences. But sometimes when they are not educated, they make choices without knowledge of the consequences, and then that's when they end up in trouble.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hannah Abrahams-Appiah, for making time to be with us here this morning.